Welcome to PodFic Galore. I'm your horrible online reader, Goldscythe. I read out loud fanfictions for you busy bees, free of charge and no strings attached. Today I will continue reading the Silmarillion / Lord of the Rings fic from Archive of Our Own by myself, called The Wraith of Himring. I hope you can at least try to enjoy my voice, and I will try my best for you with the equipment available to me. On with the show.
The Wraith of Himring, Chapter 10. Light of the Lanterns. Imladris was quiet and almost empty when she arrived, having found it thanks to Thelion's instructions. She had just missed Elrond and his household, who had left for the wedding of his daughter Arwen. She was welcomed in, nonetheless, by a younger scribe, Melboman. "You are, of course, very welcome to stay here. I can have rooms arranged for you and clean clothes brought in." "I do not wish to be a burden." "Nonsense, this is the last homely house. We open our doors and offer hospitality to all." She inclined her head, letting her horse be taken care of, and herself to be led inside. She looked around herself, amazed at what she was seeing. "It's so different from where I grew up, yet somehow—" "Happy that you are finding it to your liking. Please, you can have these rooms for yourself. I'll send a maid in soon. There should be a bell that you can ring if you find yourself needing anything." Clad in soft, earth-toned tunic and breeches, new soft boots, and her hair now dry and clean, she began to wander along the quiet corridors, enjoying the warm breeze and the sound of waterfalls. There were birds of many kinds, butterflies, flowers. She found herself in a garden filled with roses and statues, fountains and little domes overgrowing with flowers with sweet fragrance. Something on the stone path caught her attention. The round stone under her foot was carved with the Fëanorian star. Lifting her gaze, she started to see it everywhere, partially hidden, but still displayed. A relief carved into a fountain against the rock drew her in. She rinsed her face in the clear water, then gasped. The same star was in the bottom of the little fountain, and upon raising her gaze to the relief, she realized she was looking at a minstrel with a harp, two young children at his feet, listening. The same harp she had carried from the ruins. "What is this?" she whispered. Soft footsteps caught her attention, and she whipped around, feeling like a child caught with her hand in the cookie jar. "Well met. I did not mean to startle you. Are you all right?" "I just wandered in. I'm a visitor here," she began in panic. "It's all right. I'm a visitor too. My name is Gildor." "Tauriel!" She squeaked and coughed. "You were confused by something? I have been here often. Maybe in the absence of Lord Elrond and Councillor Erestor, I can help clear your mind?" She looked at the golden-haired stranger. There are Fëanorian stars everywhere." "Ah. Lord Elrond was raised by Maglor and Maedhros, the sons of Fëanor. They kidnapped them, well, Maglor did, but he grew to love them and cared for them as if they were his own. That carving is said to be one of the dearest moments to Lord Elrond. Maglor was one of the best minstrels ever lived." "Was?" She grew cold. "He couldn't sing any more after the death of his brother. He lamented by the sea until his voice gave out." "Is he dead?" Gildor looked at her for a long moment, making her feel like a child again, when she had broken something and King Orofed had been scrutinizing her. "Do you fear the kinslayers?" "Yes. And yet I need to show you something." He inclined his head and motioned for her to lead the way. In her rooms, with trembling hands, she put the folded cloak onto her desk and began to unravel the folds. Her blades, her necklace, the lantern and harp were glittering in the sunlight, and she stepped back. "As found with the necklace, the blades were given to me because they thought they had been left, if not by my father, then an elf who came home too late. My whole settlement had been slaughtered. The lantern and harp were in the ruins of a house. I was from that settlement, and I think the house had been my home." The look on Gildor's face wasn't that of surprise, but of sadness. "So he was too late," he mumbled. "What?" "I met your father near Ostin Edhil. urged him to go home. Evil things were spreading, and they were living too close to it. You knew him. Was he really... Your name is not the same, but you have the family resemblance. You have his pendant and his blades, his harp. I remember him. He had no harp, but had his blades. I met your mother once. She loved him so fiercely that I was almost envious of it. She loved life, did not mind hardships, and looked after him. Linwen, he called her, for her name was tricky for him, and the name stuck. Gano, she called him. Gano Finue Makalaure was his name. Maglor in Sindarin. Among family, he went by Gano. How can you be so sure? What was my name? Fairemril. It means free rose in Quenya and Sindarin, or wild rose. He combined the two languages, neither of which your mother spoke. She was an Avari, I believe. Did he die? She asked more urgently. No, he's still alive. He thinks you're dead too. His nephew, foster son and cousin don't know of his survival. He's been too stubborn to die. Where is he? Gildor did not reply, just held her gaze. Tell me, please! Havens. He's at the Grey Havens, or near it. He often was found around Tol Himling, the island that is all that remains of his older brother Maedhros' stronghold of Himring. I need to go there. Not yet. If he has returned to his schedule, he will not be found for a while. Tell me how to get there. I'll take my horse and leave first thing in the morning. She wrapped them up again and only stopped her packing when he set a hand on her arm. Doriel, what changed your mind? She paused, surprised. At first, she had been in denial, and now she longed to see him. I remembered the love. He cannot be heartless. They had me. Having children is not being heartless. It's a sign of love. Children are a blessing. If a kinslayer can have a child, is he not redeemable? He raised Lord Elrond, you say. He would have raised me. I remember he always had open arms for me. It's coming back to me now, and if he thought I too had been burned, how can someone survive this long without their spouse? What has kept him alive? He must have started to fade. He lost music. He lost his family. He lost his wife and daughter. Maybe he has not faded because he hopes there is something for him. I didn't know, but he knew his son and last nephew were alive. Círdan and I told him that. I count him as a friend, and I hope he counts me as his. She reached Grey Havens, sore from riding long days. She slid down from the saddle, relieving the mare from the bags, patting her and giving her a carrot from her snacks. She looked around for anyone and caught the attention of a smith working one street away. He looked up, surprised to see an Eleth with a horse trailing behind her. Yes? I'm looking for Lord Círdan. He's not here. He has business outside the Havens. If you seek passage to the west, Gwyndor or Selbeth... I do not seek passage. I'm looking for a particular elf. I've heard there's a wanderer around here. Oh, that, Smith said, putting his hammer down. I've heard stories, but he's not been seen in the city. He avoids it like the plague. He comes and goes, nobody knows when and where. Well, Lord Círdan might. Sorry that you came a long way for nothing. There's an inn a street away if you wish for rest. Good stables too. Turned out, Círdan was rather busy, and she was only able to talk to Selbeth, one of the members of his house, in the next 2 days. I'm sorry, it is a busy time. He feels that there needs to be more ships of the best quality built, and choosing timber is a delicate matter. As for the wanderer, Gwyndor, Galdor, or I are not privy to how often he passes us by. He seemed to trust only Lord Círdan and Gildor in Glorion. I could ask him to send a word out to you if you wish to return home. Disappointed, she had half a mind to go out looking for him herself, but she did not know the area. She reluctantly returned to Imladris, where she volunteered as a temporary border patrol, accompanied by 2 others, learning of the valley while being of use. Her skills with the blades and bow were praised, and she told them of the spiders and other creatures lurking within the old forest. When she wasn't on the patrols, she walked around the house and the gardens, even befriending an old halfling that had once passed through their halls, and even evaded capture by them. He had been delighted to hear how King Thranduil had been rather amused by him. It was early autumn when the first part of the household arrived, mainly staffed like the chief counselor Erestor. The said Noldor found her in the library, looking through books about Noldor, trying to find anything she could understand, but her Quenya was poor. She heard footsteps stop just inside the door. She was bent over a book in the light of the lanterns, trying to leaf through carefully but quickly. The book was about Noldorin crafts, but she could not find anything matching even part of the carvings on her blades. There are Sindarin and Western translations of every book, a voice said. She straightened her back. I can tell you struggle reading Quenya. How? Your posture. And I can feel your frustration. Also, I doubt King Thranduil thought Quenya openly. Tauriel sighed. I just wish to know. To find... Lady Galadriel and Gildor both said my blades are Noldorin, that they belong to my father. Show them to me. Am I correct to assume that you're the one called Erestor? Yes. There was something familiar in his features. You're... son of Garanthir and Haleth of Haladin. I assume you have Fëanorian blood in you. She looked away for a moment. They say I'm the daughter of Maglor. She didn't know what she expected the counselor to do or say. She had heard talks of his sharp wit, even sharper tongue, and cold demeanor. As the dark eyes softened, a ghost of a smile graced his features. So he did survive well into this age. You're young, aren't you? Yes, I'm looking for him. Gildor said he is still alive, but thinks I perished too in the orc attack. They slew my mother. Gildor said that was around the time Eregion fell. He had travelled somewhere. He said near Tol Himling. He arrived too late, just after the fires went out and before the patrol of Mirkwood arrived. I was there, but hidden by the forest, unconscious. He didn't find me. Maybe he thought I had died in the fire. That would make us cousins, he said. Lord Elrond will be relieved to hear that he is still alive, that he found happiness, even for a short while. My parents, just by the oath, were happy until my mother died. He sent me away to protect me. I saw the darkness, the hold the damned oath had on him. There was a hint of sadness in his voice. Fëanorians always had soft spots for children. Not all of them were suitable parents, but... She took her blades, presenting them to him. He took one, pulling it from the sheath. Not made in Valinor, but in Beleriand. The material is darker. I believe that might be brass inlay. The maker was Curufin, our uncle himself. I thought I had an axe and a sword made by him. I recognized the work. Did you meet him? Our uncles? Only Amros, briefly. I was kept hidden, for my own protection. Curufin and Gelecorm were losing their minds to the oath, and when my mother passed, I thought it too began to fall. Tauriel opened the cloak bundle to show the rest of the items. These are all that I have. Lantern and harp I found from the ruins of my home. Erestor came to stand next to her. He was taller than her, with raven hair still in a travel braid, and a golden clasp with an intricate flower adorning it. He wore no stars, only subtle golden flowers embroidered into his travel clothes. What is your name? Tauriel, she replied out of habit. Fairemril. That is what Gildor said I was called by my parents. I think I know why you were named such. I was a lively child, even under foster care later. And I guess my hair? Yes, that's what I think. Lord Elrond is returning by September, if not sooner. He is saying goodbye to his daughter. She chose the gift of men as her part. All Beredhil are given that choice, to live as men or elves. You chose elves. Yes, as did Elrond, but his twin brother Elros did not. Aragorn, King Elessar, as he is now known, is a descendant of Elros and has married Elrond's daughter. You and Elrond are practically siblings. He chuckled suddenly. He always spoke of the brothers with warmth. Yes, they may have caused their mother to jump with the Silmaril, but he grew to love them and taught them everything he knew. As did Maedhros. When they were brought to Círdan by a few of their last soldiers, I knew. I knew they were about to collapse, like my father. Ereinion and I took them in. Celebrimbor tried to distance himself, but he longed for the family he had lost. He chuckled again, shaking his head. Oh, how the historians would quake and people would have risen in revolt had they known the bloodlines of all the leaders in Lindon and Eregion. See, I knew. Ereinion knew. Elrond and Elros were raised by Maedhros and Maglor. I was raised by Caranthir. Celebrimbor was raised by Curufin and Ereinion by Fingon and Maedhros. Galadriel is their cousin. We remembered. Now there's you. They say no one of the line of Fëanor lived. You say Maglor is alive. There are us two. When Celebrimbor died, then Ereinion. I felt like the doom was catching us. And I was told you were cold. Another chuckle. I inherited his no-nonsense attitude. I have his head for calculations, for visions. I was helping Elrond design this place. That's why there are stars hidden. His reply was a side eye and a sly smile. You said Gildor knows where he haunts? Yes, near the shores. All the way to Tol Himling. My home was in the southern Mirkwood, near where an old Sylvan settlement had been. I heard they were possibly Avari. I think I need to grill a certain golden-haired Noldo for not telling us anything, Erestor said. I know he is hiding from me now that I have found you and talked with you. I shall see you later, cousin. With that, and a whirl of dark robes, Erestor turned, leaving the library, leaving Tauriel to stand there, in the mixed glow of sunlight and blue shimmer from the Fëanorian lamps. In September, after one more futile trip to the Havens, Tauriel heard the household start to come alive. Lord Elrond was returning with members of the Fellowship, with Captain Glorfindel. For weeks she had heard stories and tales, if not from Erestor, then from her new friend, an elderly halfling named Bilbo Baggins. The poor old hobbit just tended to fall asleep in the middle of the sentence and wake up a while later, continuing his stories as if he hadn't but thought deeply. He had snored. Loudly. Gildor had indeed been avoiding Erestor, but probably nobody else knew the house as thoroughly as he, and there was no hiding. Tauriel stepped out onto the balcony, and knit a shawl over her shoulders to keep them warm. She had spent hours in the archery range, and to keep her muscles from stiffening, she wore the shawl. Her hair was open, cascading over her back as she leaned on the banister, looking over the garden, watching the squirrels run around, gathering nuts. Upon hearing hoofs against stone, she looked towards the courtyard to see one she guessed to be Lord Elrond dismount, talking with Erestor. He had glanced towards her as he spotted her moving, and he had frozen to the spot. Her cousin turned around slowly to look at her, then moved to say something to his lord and cousin, before he was unceremoniously grabbed by Captain Glorfindel, pulled flush against him, and kissed long and hard. She chuckled. Erestor had told her a week after their first meeting, and Tauriel shook her head. Elrond had glanced at them as well, amused. She was shown into Elrond's study, where Erestor, Gildor, and the Lord himself were waiting. I have heard an interesting tale from these two today, he began, motioning her to sit, offering a goblet of wine. I can assure you I had no idea until this spring. Gildor, however, she began, and the golden-haired Noldo had the graces to look guilty. I promised I would not betray him. He wanted to stay hidden. Only Círdan and I knew the general areas he moved. I knew you should have been told. He pointed his words to Elrond, but his wrath over the betrayal of trust was something I did not wish to face. I was not in a good position to have that secret. Neither was Círdan. I knew of his marriage. I met his wife, but of a daughter he rarely spoke. He spends winters often around Tol Himling. He should be heading there right now, but I did not see him last year at all. Girdan might have. I have been to the Havens twice. Girdan has been absent and nobody else knew much about him. Maklar, I mean, or Wanderer, as he is called. I did pick up a rumor, though, of a Wraith on Tol Himling. No soul venture there. It could be him. Tauriel revealed that her trips had not been a complete waste. All this time, he has been alive. He knew he could have come to me, even to Celebrimbor. Despite denouncing his house, I know he missed his family. Elrond looked heartbroken. I searched, but in vain. Selbeth said he'd have Girdan let me know if he's spotted. If he has evaded most elves and he has been thought dead for ages, then he cannot be found by searching, Tauriel said, clutching the pendant. Elven crafts were supposed to be both delicate and durable, but years had ravaged hers. It once even saved her life from an orc arrow. Is he allowed to sail? Gildor asked. I know you three would drag him onto the ship with you. Tauriel startled. She hadn't thought of sailing. She did not feel the call to Valinor, only the need to see her father, to know for certain. It took a moment for her reeling mind to catch on she was being spoken to. Elrond had taken her hands in his. Are you all right? I never thought about sailing. I don't feel the pull, at least not yet. It is your choice. The autumn colors deepened and became more vibrant, yet the sadness it was tinted with did not fade. Then a letter came, carried by a great albatross. Tauriel did not understand why Elrond and Erestor looked deeply worried. She hurried to the balcony where she had seen her kin sit as the bird had swooped down. As she navigated her way down, she almost barreled into Glorfindel. He steadied her as she regained her footing. What is wrong, Tauriel? He asked upon seeing her wide eyes. Why do Elrond and Erestor look worried to see an albatross bring a message? Because Círdan only sends the most urgent messages via birds. That sent them both running towards the balcony. What is it? They both asked. Gildor, too, had seen them and was climbing up the trellis to join them, earning a dirty look from Erestor for his troubles. Círdan found him, from Tol Himling. Injured. He's very weak. He calls for my help. End of chapter 10. Pardon for any possible background noises I'm unable to edit out. Stay tuned.